Hey guys, this is CardinalBird5, and today I have another video for you, and we're going to be talking about home runs per 9 rating and what it actually does in the game. So I just see, some discussions lately on Twitter, on the forums. Some people are confused on what home run per 9 actually does. There are some misconceptions out there that home run per 9 actually negates your opponent's power, and that's logically that makes sense. You think they put it in the game, and more specifically, since they've added Diamond Dynasty to the game, that you think it would actually have an impact. Especially when Diamond Dynasty first came out and you were allowed to train the attribute. Of course, you only have the one created player now, and if you play Arrieta the Show, you still have home runs per 9. So let me just tell you guys and get this out of the way. It's going to be a lot harder to prove this one, but I do have a direct source, from the dev team. One of the main programmers came out and said it doesn't do anything, and I think that should be enough proof. I know some on the Show Nation forums, they've also said they came out and said, some of the developers came out and said that it does nothing as well. And from my just personal experience playing the last 3 or 4 years, it doesn't do anything. So if you have a Road to the Show guy, don't be putting points into it. If you're looking at the attribute for pitchers in Diamond Dynasty, don't worry about it. It does affect their overall, unfortunately, so it can have a misleading, or it can make it to where a pitcher has a misleading overall, but it doesn't do anything. And again, it's really hard to prove. This is something you really have to do a lot of digging and do a lot of data collecting and research. But again, I don't really have can't really show you that in all in one video, but I just wanted to get this video out there. The data I do have in Diamond Dynasty, one of the pitchers I've pitched the most with is Matt Latos. We also have Chris Archer. I don't know if this will support my theory or whatever, but again, it's a very small sample size. But if you look here at Matt Latos, and we see that I've actually pitched 45 innings with him, and I've allowed, I've allowed 1 home run. His home runs per 9 is 64, which isn't great at all. And considering the fact I pitched a lot with him in Diamond Dynasty, and he's only given up 1 home run. And then we also look at a pitcher like Chris Archer, who's given up 2. Again, his home run per 9 isn't too great either. He doesn't have as many innings pitched. If I can find it, these stats are kind of confusing, not gonna lie. He's kind of all over the place. He's pitched 27 innings. But 45 innings and you've only given up 1 home run, that would be amazing in the majors. So that would be like a 99 home run per 9. I mean, that just goes to show you it doesn't have an impact. Basically, if you don't want to give up home runs, keep the ball away from the fat part of the plate. Keep the ball away. It's a lot harder to go opposite field with home runs. And depending on what ballpark you're playing at, pitch away from the smaller porches. If you're playing at, for example, I like to play at Sportsman's Park. I like to pitch away from the short right field. So if there is a righty up, I'll pitch. Sometimes I will, challenge him inside because it's a lot harder to hit a home run down the line. But generally, if you keep the ball away, it's a lot harder to pull the ball for a home run. Even go with it, it's a lot harder. It doesn't mean you can't give up 1. You try to keep the ball out of the middle of the plate. It's that simple. So really, it depends on how you pitch, and ultimately, K per 9 hits per 9 actually have an impact on how many home runs you give up to. Because again, if their PCI is bigger, it's going to make it easier to square up the ball. But from the data I do have, I just wanted to show you guys. I know it's a small sample size, and I wish I could show you guys some more, a lot more data from me playing the last 3 or 4 years. I know there's some users on like Operation Sports that I've ran some tests. But basically, all home run per 9 does is it's a factor for simulations, and that's it. It simply does not do anything at all for gameplay situations. So, and I'll show you guys the post from the developer, or one of the main programmers at San Diego Studios, and I'll show you guys. Alright guys, so yeah, I actually have confirmation from one of the main programmers of MLB The Show. I made a thread a couple years ago asking about home runs per 9 because one of the programmers came out and explained it. But the way you read it, you could read it 2 different ways. You could read it that it has a subtle, or a moderate impact on in-game play, but it's mainly used for sims. Or how I read it was it had no impact whatsoever, and it was actually in this about predetermined home runs. It's actually good stuff here. I'll put I'll put all this these links in the description if you guys want to read these forums. It's actually a lot of good information in here, and some of the developers come in and chime in. And this was 2013, but ultimately I made this thread. A lot of people were confused, and he finally came in here and said home runs per 9 has no effect in game. So that should clear up any confusion. I mean, you have a programmer that does most of the stuff come in, admit that it does nothing. Plus, a lot of the developers will even admit that it does nothing. So, so yeah, I've heard it, from a few of them. So trust me, it does nothing. What he does say is it affects in-game or in simulations, which is pitcher pitching, batter. In-game means pitcher pitching, batter swinging the bat interactively, and in simulation is what it has an impact on. And that include fast forward, row of the show, or anything done in the front end. So that should clear up any confusion. I mean, you have a programmer that came on the forums, Operation Sports nonetheless, and admitted it. So, I mean, that should be enough to clear that up. And before we end this video, I want to show you guys some pitchers overalls and how they can be misleading because of home runs per 9. So I'll see you guys then. Alright guys, so talking about the home run per 9 attribute, it can be very misleading when you're looking at overalls. It does have a huge impact in the algorithm for the composite overalls for the pitchers. Closers, relievers, starters, it all has an impact. So I just want to show you guys an example of that. We look at a closer like Trevor Rosenthal, who has 84 home runs per 9, which I don't even really know how it's that high because he does give a decent amount of home runs. But say we knock that down to like an average range around 60. Alright, Trevor Rosenthal becomes a middle silver player. Still a great pitcher in the game because he can throw 99, good changeup, good curveball. But you knock that attribute down, and he goes from a gold, a moderate gold to a moderate silver. So it has a huge impact there. Another pitcher I can show you guys would be Jake Arrieta. Let's see here. He has 79 home runs per 9, so it's pretty good attribute there, or pretty high attribute there for home runs per 9. Say we knock it down to 60 in that average range. Alright, he falls down to a 92. He goes from a diamond to a gold. And if you look at a lot of these players, home runs per 9, they'll be in that 60 range. They'll be anywhere from that 60 to 70 range. It really just depends. Like John Lackey has 56 home runs per 9. So yeah, it can have a huge impact, and it really has a big impact on a lot of these legend pitchers that are in the game. I can even show you guys a couple here. Orel Hershiser, for example, has 64. Actually, I already edited that from before. He has 64. I knocked it down to a 64. It was, I think, in the 80s, and I knocked it down to a 64, and he fell to an 88. Let's see. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like, I could just take Juan Marichal, for example. He has 73 home runs per 9, which is probably above average. And I'm knocking down, say I knock down an attribute to 50. I don't, just making up a number here. Juan Marichal drops down to a 90. So it has a huge impact on the overall ratings. Basically, Marichal went from a diamond to a gold just because of home run per 9, an attribute that absolutely does nothing in the game. So, just be careful of that. Pay attention to that rating for relievers and starting pitchers. Yeah, pretty easy takeaway. I mean, there's really nothing to prove. I can't really show you guys any gameplay here, but I think I brought you guys enough proof that it does nothing in game. This is Cardinal Bird 5 signing out. Peace.